In 1776, the finest orchestra in Paris needed a new director. One name stood above every other candidate, a composer, a virtuoso violinist, and the best fencer in France. The job was his, until a petition arrived at the Queen's court demanding he never get it. Not because of his music, because of his skin. His name was Joseph Bologne, the Chevalier de Saint-Georges, and history very nearly erased one of the most extraordinary men of the 18th century. He was born in 1745 on the island of Guadeloupe, a French sugar colony. His father was a wealthy white plantation owner. His mother, Nanon, was a 16-year-old enslaved African woman. Under colonial law, that made Joseph property. His father did something almost unheard of. He claimed the boy, took him to Paris at the age of 7, and paid for the finest education money could buy. At 13, Joseph entered the Academy of La Boissière, the most famous fencing master in France. By 19, he was beating champions. When a rival master mocked him as the upstart mulatto, Joseph answered him in a public match, and won. The insults grew quieter after that. King Louis XV made him a chevalier, a knight, and a member of the royal guard. Then Paris discovered he had a second gift, the violin. Bologne didn't just play it, he composed. Violin concertos, string quartets, symphonies. He performed pieces so technically demanding that other violinists simply couldn't play them. By his early 30s, he was leading one of Europe's best orchestras, Le Concert des Amateurs, and premiering symphonies by Haydn himself. He gave music lessons to one particular student you may have heard of, Queen Marie Antoinette, which brings us back to 1770s and the Paris Opera. The directorship was within his reach, the most prestigious musical post in France. Then 3 of the opera's leading ladies petitioned the Queen, declaring their honor would never allow them to, in their words, submit to the orders of a mulatto. The campaign worked. Bologne withdrew. The most qualified musician in Paris lost the job without ever being outplayed, only outvoted by prejudice. He kept composing anyway. He kept winning duels anyway. In 1787, in front of the future King of England, he fenced an exhibition match in London against the most famous duelist in Europe, the Chevalier d'Eon. Thousands came to watch. He was, by every account, the most talked-about man in 2 capitals. Then the French Revolution arrived, and Bologne made a choice that tells you everything about him. The man who dined with queens sided with the Revolution. In 1792, France gave him command of 1,000 soldiers, the Legion Saint-Georges, the first European regiment ever led by a colonel of African descent. He defended the Republic in the north. His own second-in-command was another name you might know, Alexandre Dumas' father. His reward? During the Terror, the Revolution turned on him, as it turned on everyone. Denounced on flimsy charges, he spent 18 months in prison waiting for a guillotine that never quite called his name. He walked out to find his orchestra gone, his fortune gone, his France gone. Joseph Bologne died in Paris in 1799, at 53. Within a few years, Napoleon had re-established slavery in the French colonies, and men like Bologne became inconvenient to remember. Some historians say his music was actively suppressed. Others say it was simply allowed to disappear. Either way, the result was the same. The composer who once outshone Paris was reduced to a footnote, and when people rediscovered him centuries later, they could only describe him by comparison, calling him the Black Mozart. But here's the thing. The nickname gets backwards. Mozart arrived in Paris in 1778 and stayed in the same circles as Bologne, a broke 22-year-old nobody, while Bologne was the celebrity. Some scholars even hear echoes of Bologne's melodies in music Mozart wrote afterward. If anything, for one moment in history, Mozart was living in his shadow. A knight, a champion, A colonel, a composer whose work is only now returning to concert halls after 200 years of silence. The question isn't whether Joseph Bologne earned a place in history. It's who decided he shouldn't have one, and how many others got the same treatment.